Otherwise, we're going to start the Board of Supervisors meeting. Good morning, and if you can, as you can, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance by standing. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was making a lot of noise, isn't it?
What's that?
That's coming. It's a machine.
Didn't you need that?
Turn on it. I'll turn on it again. See if it. Power up.
Okay, Brandon, maybe we could use your services. There are no announcements. This morning we're fortunate. We have 3 presentations we'd like to do, and the first one is Lori Jean Nenny from the Calaveras County Fairground, and the biggest cheerleader for Frogtown. Thank you, Lori.
Hi, and thank you for having me this morning. I have 2 of my board here, Kathy Campbell and the Vice President of our board, Taliba Al-Rafiq, are joining me this morning. I thought it would be a great opportunity in kind of our off time to just really update you guys where we've been, where we're at, and what's happening with us. Some of you know a lot about us. Some of you are new to the board and might not be as familiar with the 39th DAA. So the name of this presentation is We're Not Only Surviving, But We're Thriving. Brandon? So let's talk a little bit about our beginnings. In 1865, Mark Twain pens the celebrated Jumping Frog at Calaveras County. Who knew? I mean, I don't think he knew, and sometimes we kind of joke, what would he be thinking today if he knew we surround the whole agricultural event around that little story. In 1880, the state of California formed the Agriculture District, which is now called the 39th DAA. In 1883, the first fair of record, funded by the Fair Board. So, and we're fortunate enough in our safe at Frogtown, we do have minutes that go back to 1883. That first fair was funded by the Board of Directors. They each ponied at $450, which in today's money is $23,000. I asked, they didn't go for it. In 1928, the town of Angels Camp hosts a frog jump, and that was to celebrate the paving of the streets. In 1937, those events merged, and the fair and frog jump moved to the 3rd weekend in May. Then we're going to jump to 2009, which is really important to us, is in 2009, the Friends of the Fair organization was formed, and that is our 501, our nonprofit arm, and it's very important, and you'll see later why. In 2010, an economic impact study was done by the state of California, and the Calaveras County Fair generated approximately $5.5 million in spending activity alone in 2009, benefiting the local economy and creating a ripple effect of economic benefit to the state. I love this photo. This is 1950s. That is actually people watching us jump those frogs. Now let's jump from 1880 to 2011. The Calaveras County Fair is still held the 3rd weekend in May. And the Friends of the Fair have been holding a raffle, and they, at that time, completed 2 capital improvement projects. The Ranch House, which was an old hangar, which is now a venue, and our south entrance sign. The DAA ends 2010, so our statement of operations for 2010, we had a negative 23% reserve. The DAA had been advancing their allocation from the state since 2006 with a deficit of $450,000 was discovered. Then in 2011, we get the word that fair funding is being cut from the state budget. No more money, no place to advance their allocation from. And it was in October that the realization came that we did not have enough cash to even get through the end of that calendar year. Local papers were having a field day, and the press was pretty negative. So our board of directors started holding town hall meetings. And there is a strong feeling in the community that the fair should not be dependent on state funding. I mean, how did we get there? How did we get so dependent? That's the ranch house. You can kind of see from that photo. If you haven't been there, you need to see it. It's pretty amazing. And this is our Friends of the Fair, our board of directors. And if you see them, Furman Brown, Rob Miller, Jerry Mills, Jeff Johnson, Leslie Davis, Bonnie Tiscornia, Anita Pack, Tony Ann Fisher, and Bill Whitmer. They're from all areas of the county. So we have that in place. And then in October of 2011, the 39th DA Board of Directors consults division, the president and Friends of the Fair, and takes the following action. I'm going to tell you right now that they're a pretty brave group of 8 individuals at that time. They asked the fair manager to retire. At that time, the fair manager for the DAA earned $7,500 a month plus benefits. It was a scale that the fair could not sustain. They laid off 7 part-time employees. They reduced the staff to 1 full-time person and 20 hours of maintenance and accounting combined. The fair office closed, and they were only open 20 hours a week to reduce costs. And then they started exploring various options, becoming a special district, maybe having the 501, the nonprofit arm, take over the fair. Here's that brave group right there. And keeping with our mission, their mission as a board of directors, to ensure the ongoing success of the world-famous Calaveras County Fair. How are they going to do that? They're absolutely broke. They don't know if we're going to be open in January. Here's the group of that, our board, our current board. As you can see, they're from all over the county and from all walks of life. So this is what they do. They promote the permanent employee to a CEO fair manager as a fractional employee. In other words, a part-time employee. They develop an operating budget that is reduced costs by $250,000 without impacting programming. And we ignite our base, which is our ag community. And it's great that Scott Onito is here today to present too, because he's definitely part of that. The 4-H groups, our Grange groups, and then our FFA. And we actually have traveled to all these meetings that fall. We went to every club we could go to and every community group that would have us. The nonprofit board, back one. And the nonprofit board and the DA moved from what was considered maybe an adversarial relationship to a partnership. When we were going through that really tough time, the DA board, like yourself, was considered government. The Friends of the Fair board, they were considered fun. But they really moved into a partnership of working together. And we created partnerships with 20 other organizations, community partners, such as AMA and the Church of Latter-day Saints, Master Gardeners. The list just goes on. Brandon? And then the board took an active role helping the CEO accomplish her mission. In other words, they went from being a policy-setting board to a real working board. And that means they all individually spend lots of hours in the fair office and on the fairgrounds. We created some additional opportunities through our 501c3, where they're actually funding 2 of our programs now. They fund the frog jump, and they also fund the livestock program. And that's taken a lot of work from our volunteers in our ag community, but we're there now, where that program is not on those 2 programs are no longer on the operating budget. They're being funded through other sources. The volunteers are empowered. We have 200 at least plus volunteers. And the thing is you can't have a volunteer unless you let them do a job. And so we don't micromanage our volunteers. They have a mission, and they do a great job. We use available resources, all of them. A situation that happened last fall is, a lot of you know or may not know that Frogtown is one of the, along with the Tryon Ranch, is one of the toughest cross-country courses in California. And we have 2 very large cross-country meets there in the fall. Last November, we were hosting 7,500 runners and their parents and coaches, and we had a water leak. Not a small water leak, we had a gusher. It was coming up from the arena, drained our domestic water tank, and in about 30 minutes, we no longer had water. And we have a lot of people there. Luckily, we had portable sanitation units that we were storing for CDF, and the hospital had donated us sanitizing stations, like when you go into the hospital in the little stands. We took all of those out. We still had this major water problem. The fairgrounds also has an RV park, and we provide water for a home that's on the gun club property. What are we going to do? Well, my first phone call is always my husband. He's not a volunteer. We call it voluntold. But so he came out, and he determined right away we needed a backhoe. Started making some phone calls. Well, Supervisor Pawnee, they live close to the fairgrounds. Her husband brought the backhoe out and some help right away. We started digging. We isolated the issue. Okay, it's Saturday. We have no parts. What are we going to do? Mr. Pawnee called the Public Works Director at the City of Angels. The City of Angels went, opened their shop, brought us a part. We fixed it. We had water, and we replaced the part next week. That's just a sample of the cooperation that we get from all kinds of entities and all kinds of people. And we're not afraid to ask, believe me. So, and at fair time, we're lucky we have what I call the Motherload A team. Our neighboring fairs bring in their staff to help us, because there are some areas during the fair that you really need some experienced personnel. So we're lucky we have staff from Amador, staff from the Intermountain Fair, and also staff from Mariposa. We've created some new business partnerships. One is Barrel of Monkeys. We had a building that we only used at fair time. Now it's a recreation area for children. And we rent commercial space to the garbage company. And the other thing we've tried to do is maximize our brand equity. There's a lot of county fairs, and they're all charming and wonderful in their own way, but there's only one Frogtown. And so we definitely try to maximize that. That's at the state capitol. This was actually on page 2 of the LA Times. And we have our own chocolate bar. We worked with a business in Angels Camp, an entrepreneur, and we created a chocolate bar that's sold in Angels Camp and in Cedar Creek. The fair gets $2 a bar. Okay. So now we're at results. We ended 2012 with a 6.4 reserve. So we went from negative 23% to 6.4. We're in the best financial position we've been in 10 years. The 2013 fair was very profitable. We showed an increase in revenue streams, and the junior livestock auction grossed $320,000. For a community and a fair our size, amazing that we sustain that. And really, I live my life that good things come from tough situations, and challenges are always opportunities. And that sounds like a sound bite, and it sounds really corny, but I am corny. I won't apologize for that. But the fair really belongs to Calaveras County now. It's not a there is some governance, because there has to be, because we're still state property. This is a question I'm asked constantly. This last question right there, is it sustainable? We were invited to go speak at the Food and Ag Board in Sacramento, and I was asked that question. And you know what? In Calaveras County, it is sustainable. I don't know if it can work other places, but it can work here. Randy? And we do have our challenges. And, I'm Mary Poppins, and Marita calls me a cheerleader. But, state reporting, we had some legislation go all the way into the vote pretty much that was going to get us out of some of our state reporting, which would be so entirely helpful, as you guys know. I mean, just the DGS stuff, it would be amazing. So that's a challenge with, one part-time staff person. We have an aging facility. It's old. Things are not in great shape. This last year, Friends of the Fair were able to put a roof on one of our buildings, which was great. They're helping a lot with our infrastructure. Here, this is pretty amazing. I didn't know this till I became the manager. We're our own sewer district. Yeah. So, which is pretty amazing. Did not know this, and so we've had to do some work down in our sewer area. Some of it was done on a volunteer basis. It was actually done by KW Emerson and Daryl Giannini. And this is a picture of that happening. And we actually work with Weber Geo to do the required reporting. Apparently you have to have some kind of license. I thought I could do it, but I couldn't. So, next. These are our fair dates for next year. This is Riley Kitchell. He is a wonderful young man. He pretty much grew up on that frog jump stage. He is our champion for last year. And he's going to be going with us to the schools, to the Capitol. Actually, will be part of the celebration in Angels Camp on October 19th. So it's been really exciting to have a local champion like we did with Riley. And actually, his mom was the champ before. So we have a joke there at the fair that we kind of have a dynasty going. But this is Riley. You guys have any questions for me?
Go ahead, John.
I just wanted to know if there's some kind of template that you used for people to be able to, like you said, to have volunteers, you have to let them work. Mm-hmm. And you have to, and they work better if you just give them some kind of directive or something to do, but you don't like hover.
Yeah.
So this last year I did weed whacking at the fairground with a friend of mine that works at Bret Harte High School. He and I got together and we did weed whacking out between the arena and the camping area.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Some serious tall grass.
Yeah.
Worried if I was getting bit by a snake or something.
Yeah.
But I just thought, that was a really good feeling. Of course, whenever you give service, it's a good feeling. But I thought, I wonder how they get past this I didn't care at the time. I was just glad I was able to do it. I think, what other organizations could benefit from things like that if the liability piece were put in check? If people were allowed to go and do stuff like that. So I don't want to take away from your workforce, but I want to be able to maybe use the template for other people that may need something like that. I could see certainly at the local schools or other, parks or different things like that, we have cleanup day once a year or something.
Fortunately for us, the liability piece is covered. Our insurance is through California Fair Service Authority. We have a JPA, and all of our volunteers are covered under our workers' comp policy. So that's great because we have so many committees now, in a very small paid staff.
Yeah.
Lord, you are the chief executive officer. You kept referring to.
Oh, yeah. Talk about myself in the third person.
Yes.
I'm also the janitor, so.
Does the governor still appoint the board?
The governor does appoint our fair board, and I have to say he does an excellent job. He does appoint our fair board. And in 2013, I failed to mention, there is some funds left in the F&E fund at the state, and the smaller fairs like us got $30,000 in 2013, which was really great because we had all these infrastructure issues, mainly our sewer. So, yeah. And we do currently have one board opening. We're supposed to have a 9-member board, and right now we have an 8-member board, so if anybody's interested, they can go on to the governor's website and apply. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
I just have a comment. So, having lived in Calaveras County most all my life, I was thinking the other day as I saw this presentation that I have been going to the fair since 1969 and only missed 1 year when I graduated from Fresno State, and the graduation was held the same weekend. Couldn't get in. But, being involved with the fair from a youth to 4-H to various businesses as a community member, etc., also looking past the various CEOs from Minto to Callahan. Can't remember Mike's last name. Tawny, Buck King, Ray, and then now we have Lori. And I think, Lori, you deserve a huge applause for everything you've done. Because you were able to transition an entity like the fairgrounds, which is huge. Like you said, you now have a sewer district in your arena, in your job description. But taking it from, some government entity, which, years ago maybe worked just fine, to really truly being a community-based entity that I think most people don't really realize the value, the little gold gem that we have there at Frogtown. And to be commended for bringing us to where we are today.
Thank you for saying that. And again, I with true humility, say it's a pleasure to have my job, and I have a wonderful board of directors and a great, like I said, it is sustainable because it's Calaveras County. Mm-hmm. And so you can expect nothing less. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation today.
Oh,
Thank you.
See you at the fair. Brandon, when you finish that, could you come sit with Pastor over? Thank you. I mean, it's as a volunteer.
No, it's making noise.
It's just noise back here. After you can. And we're just going to proceed. Thank you. Our next item is adopting a resolution recognizing and declaring the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's brought to us by the District Attorney's Office and Resource Commission, the Crisis Center. Oh, welcome. Did you want me to do the resolution first? Or get the vote?
Whatever you'd like to do. You're the boss.
Okay. This is always hard for me every year when this comes up. So I'm going to read part of it, at least. We'll get through it.
Nice chair can assist if you want.
It's a tough one.
Not having a hot flash, an emotional flash. Okay. Domestic violence touches the lives of Americans of all ages. Kelly, I don't know how you do it. Leaves a devastating impact on women, men, and children of every background and circumstances. It turns homes into places of fear, hopelessness, and desperation. When a man or a woman is abused by their partner, a child witnesses the abuse of a loved one, or a senior is victimized by a family member, and I have to say it also happens to animals. Domestic violence is responsible for nearly $5.8 billion per year in health costs nationally each year. In Calaveras County, the Sheriff's Department made 133 domestic violence arrests, and the Angels Camp Police Department has made 40 domestic violence arrests during the past fiscal year. The Resource Connection Calaveras Crisis Center sheltered 60 women and children victims and provided assistance with 167 domestic violence restraining orders in the past 12 months, whereas only a coordinated community effort will put a stop to this heinous crime. Now, therefore, the Board of Supervisors does proclaim October 2013 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I will ask for a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Supervisor Spellman, a second by Supervisor Edson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moves. It is around us, and we all probably see it, but we don't choose to see it or don't know what we're seeing. So I hope this will encourage people to learn about it and what the signs are and be cognizant of what's happening in all of our communities. Kelly, Dana.
Good morning. My name is Dana File. I'm a deputy with the District Attorney's Office. Unfortunately, Ms. Yu couldn't be here this morning as she's working on a case. But Ms. Ferrera and I are very pleased to present this resolution to the board, recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. As a prosecutor of domestic violence for approximately 8 years, I can tell you that this particular type of crime has very unique characteristics to it that other crimes don't have. The most astounding is how underreported this crime is. It's very rare that the first time abuse occurs, a report is made to law enforcement. It's only after the injuries have become more severe and the abuse is more frequent that law enforcement actually gets involved. It's also true that it never only happens once in a relationship. If a victim is successful in leaving his or her abuser, the abuser may go on to victimize someone else. So we see a lot of repeat offenders in what we do, unfortunately. It's also a misconception that men cannot be victims of domestic violence. I would say by far, as a population, males underreport consistently. And overall, I think that's because of shame, which to me personally is horrible. I don't know that should be something that someone should be shameful of, that they choose not to hit their attacker back or do something about it. But several years ago, we had a case where a woman ran her boyfriend over with a car, causing a compound fracture of his leg. It happened in like a field in the middle of the night, and he actually had to drag himself with a compound fractured leg to his home several hundred yards to contact law enforcement. We were successful in prosecuting that case, and that abuser actually ended up going to prison, so that was a good outcome. And very clearly, domestic violence affects children in a very impactful way. And I'll let Kelly describe those details for you.
Thank you. That was great. You're welcome. She's going to be my new spokesperson. So yeah, it does impact children. And before we talk about that a little bit, I want to tell you how it's impacting your districts. So the Calaveras Crisis Center served 441 victims of domestic violence last year, which is, so the number of arrests is about 43% of that. And I would argue that probably there are more cases of domestic violence than even come to the crisis center. People can come and get services from us without reporting the crime, but there's a lot of fear in doing that. So according to our statistics, last fiscal year, District 1, 142 victims of domestic violence. District 2 had 60, District 3, 31, District 4, 67, District 5, 26. We had 46 victims from out of the county, so they had fled where they were from in order to get away from the violence. And 69 didn't want to tell us where they were from. So there's a lot of fear around reporting and fleeing. And what we know is that when the victim gets ready to leave, it actually kind of escalates the situation. So 441 adults. I would say when we look at the average of how many children those adults represent, how many are in their family, it's around 735. So 735 children were witnesses to domestic violence in Calaveras County and around Calaveras County last year. And when a child grows up in a violent situation, in a violent home, that's what they learn. They learn that that's normal. They grow up with behavior problems and anger issues, and they have self-esteem problems, which can lead to drug abuse, which can lead to all different kinds of things. And when we look at the history of people who are perpetrating domestic violence, I would say probably 85 to 90% of the time, they experienced violence in their home when they were children. I had a short conversation with the new coordinator at the Day Reporting Center last week. And what she told me is that she believed that 90% of those that were utilizing those services after getting out of prison had some kind of domestic violence in their background as a child. So kids learn their parenting skills from their parents. They also learn their relationship skills from their parents. And so when we're not addressing domestic violence as a community, when we don't want to talk about it, when we don't want to ask the question, when we don't want to get involved, we are setting our community up for a whole nother generation of domestic violence perpetrators, criminals of other kinds of violent crimes, and it's getting worse. It's perpetuating itself. So 441 victims of domestic violence, well, that represents roughly 735 children. Those are our future. That's our future. You know, what's going to happen in Calaveras County when these numbers, they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger? It's a problem for law enforcement. It's one of the most dangerous calls that they go to. It's a problem for prosecution. Dana just talked about that. And I have kind of decided to start calling myself the Grim Reaper, because every time I go to a community group and talk about domestic violence, everybody looks at the table. And when I get done, it's silent. And one or two people do come up and ask me some really nervous questions, but nobody wants to go there. And I understand that, but we have to stop it. You know, people, you need to, if you see domestic violence in your community, if you hear it, report it. You know, victims don't always want to report. It's the community's responsibility to send the message that this is not okay. To protect the kids, if nothing else. If you can't, you know, get your brain around why doesn't she leave, why doesn't he leave, everybody really struggles with that. Well, the children can't leave. You know, and they're the victims. And it's going to affect, it is affecting our community. So I gave all of you 5 lapel pins before the meeting. And so I would ask, like I did last year, that you give out those 5 pins, or 4 pins if you want to wear one. Darren has his from last year, so please give that all 5. And don't just hand them to somebody. Tell them what it means. And then I have a staff person, Celeste, back here, who has a box of lapel pins. So anybody in the audience who is willing to take up that challenge and take 5 pins or 4 pins and talk to people in your community about what they mean and encourage people to report it. Angels Camp Police Department, I think the day before October, the last day of September, made 3 domestic violence arrests, and one of them was based on a bystander reporting. I wish I knew who that person was, because I would love to go shake their hand, because I know it's hard to do. But probably if that woman wouldn't have had the courage to do what she did, that victim wouldn't have had any help. It would maybe have never been reported. It may not have resulted in an arrest. So I want to put that challenge out to you. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our partners, the District Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Department, Angels Camp PD, Highway Patrol. All the law enforcement vehicles in the county are sporting purple ribbons on their bumpers or various places this month, recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So they're helping us to send that message. And apparently, you know, some people in the community are sending the message. We have the faceless bride in the back here. I was surprised to see that when I walked up here. So that's my challenge, again, for October. Step in, take a stand, ask the question, get involved. It's really, really important.
To both of you, thank you very, very much. And the faceless bride.
Faceless bride.
Faceless bride.
I'm not sure who that is. I have a feeling I know her.
Can walk around the...
I may be faceless, but I'm not voiceless. It's always seemed ironic to me that domestic violence awareness was held the same month as Halloween. For some women, this outfit can be the most terrifying costume they'll ever put on. I know I put on a costume like this in 1968. It was the middle of the Vietnam War, and all my little friends were being drafted and sent overseas, and some of them would come back in closed coffins. So I saw my brothers dying around me, and I thought, well, maybe I ought to marry one of them. So I became Mrs. Eduardo Martin Zubiate. We got married right after boot camp. We got sent to Fort Benning in Columbus, Georgia. He was in the Army, and I was in hell. I spent 6 months getting beat up. Sometimes I would be choked until I passed out. Often I would wake up and find myself being raped or sodomized by my loving husband. It was terrifying. I was 3,000 miles away from home. I didn't know anyone. And I was totally isolated. Did that make me a man-hater? No, I hated everyone. I don't know how many dozens of people must have heard me screaming. I mean, I could hear the neighbors fart next door. I know they could hear me scream at night. But nobody ever did anything. And nobody ever said anything. And I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. My salvation came in the form of transfer papers. Eddie went to Korea, and only then, when he was halfway around the world, could I make my escape. I moved back home. I made some new friends. I started a new life, and I got a divorce, and I never saw him again. That started my healing process, but not until I moved to Calaveras County did it resume. You got to remember, in 1968, domestic violence wasn't even a word. I mean, it wasn't even a phrase. We didn't even talk about it. In 1980, in the state of California, domestic violence became a crime. Finally, law enforcement had some teeth, which they could arrest abusers. My healing began meeting a bunch of feminist women in Calaveras County who decided to start something called the Calaveras Women's Crisis Line. Over the years, I not only empowered other victims, other survivors of domestic violence, but I empowered myself. Now we know that our local center is suffering the hardships of the federal shutdown. I would urge everyone to support their local battered women's shelter, whether it's in a check or donations to the Oaths thrift store. But I would like to close my presentation today thinking of 3 sayings that come to mind whenever I think domestic violence. First, right out of the 60s, make love, not war. Second, peace on earth begins at home. And finally, can't we all just get along?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Marty Crane, Valley Springs. Many years ago when I first came, Marianne Morgan asked me to join the Women's Crisis Center Advisory Board, and I did. And I remember hearing and learning about all the history of how it started. Bonnie shared with you how that started, and how it took a community to actually build the building, and it was very empowering. And Don Cuneo was on that board as well as many other people as well. Anyway, I remember saying, because I knew from not my personal experience, but in our family, that there is such a thing as men who are abused, and that they wouldn't come forward because of the stigma and because we were calling it the Women's Crisis Center. So I had suggested that we maybe think about that. And a few years later, I realized that it took some doing to figure out how would this work, because we know that the large majority of the domestic violence is against women. So their safety zone was the Women's Crisis Center. So how would that work? So I'd like to applaud Kelly and the team and our district attorney and her office for working through all of that and finding a way to address the additional concerns in the community and bringing everyone into the, allowing everyone to have the ability to have that safety. And finally, Bonnie, thank you so much for sharing. That took such courage. I've known Bonnie for a long time, and I didn't know that. I knew there was something, but I had no idea what that was. And I just encourage everyone to share your story with someone. You never know when you talk to that someone, they may have a hidden story of their own and they're afraid to say it. And by you sharing that, you could very, very well be the one person that encourages them to make the phone call and make a change. So applause, applause, applause. And everybody step up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments on this? Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Dana. I'd like to move to the next item. Mr. Nahara, the University of California Cooperative Extension.
Good morning. Scott Oneto, Director for University of California Cooperative Extension, also a farm advisor for the Central Sierra Counties. It really is a pleasure to be here this morning to share with you our 2012-13 annual report. I do have some extra copies, so if anybody in the public would like a copy, I can leave them in the back and they can help themselves to one. We also have them on our website, and so if you would like to save paper and just grab one or download it from our website, that would be great too. I'm going to keep this brief this morning. I didn't bring any PowerPoints. I figured the handout that you receive will give you a lot of the detail of some of our activities for the year. But I do just want to highlight a few things, and I feel it's very appropriate, and it's great that I'm here this day, not only to follow up with Lori and her great presentation on the history of the Calaveras County Fair and just the institution of that facility that supports agriculture and learning here in the county, and all the great things that they have done over the year. It really is a milestone for them, what they've done just in the short period of time of really making that fair really possible and sustainable. So with the other milestone, this being here today, we are actually in the midst of National 4-H Week. So it's great to be celebrating our youth here in the county, but also state and national wide. So just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight, and I'll be more than happy to address or answer any questions that you may have. But regarding the annual report from last year for 2012-13, I just wanted to point out a few of, the milestones. I wanted to remind you of what your commitment has been to cooperative extension in the form of direct support in terms of dollars. Last year, you contributed just over $127,000 to our programs. And if you remember right, those funds are leveraged with the neighboring counties of El Dorado, Amador, and Tuolumne. And together, those funds are leveraged with state and federal dollars. And our total budget for last year was $3.8 million. So that contribution that you make to our programs, we really pride ourselves in leveraging those dollars and stretching them as far as we can to not only employ people here in the community, but also bring the great educational and research programs to Calaveras County. In some of the, I'm not going to go through any of the research programs that we've done, but I just wanted to highlight a big portion of our program is our volunteer programs with our Master Gardener program, our 4-H program, and our relatively new, we just started this last year, Master Food Preserver program. As most of you know, the local food movement has been a resurgence the last couple of years. People are just more engaged about local food than than they ever have, or at least in my lifetime have. It's probably going back to the 40s, 50s eras, 60s eras when local food was, much, much more popular. But it's coming back, and we're seeing a huge interest in local food and people wanting to preserve food. And so we actually started a new program here. It's not new to the state, but it's the Master Food Preserver Program, and it's basically a group of volunteers that we train through the university using our specialists at campus as well as other specialists throughout the state that are experts in all aspects of nutrition, food safety, food preservation, and train those volunteers on how to do it properly and safely, and then they extend that knowledge to the local community. And so we just brought that program here to Calaveras County this last year. They actually had a workshop here, I believe on Saturday at the Senior Center, and they are just getting, it's amazing the turnouts they're getting. They're getting anywhere from 30 to 50 people on these Saturday classes. So I think this one on Saturday was learning how to do jams and jellies. So it's great to see that program doing well. And then the other program that we are really excited about here in Calaveras County this year is we have partnered with, I'm sure all of you are familiar with AmeriCorps and service workers that serve under the AmeriCorps umbrella. There's a new program under AmeriCorps called Food Corps. And Food Corps is basically service members that deal with food. And Food Corps is brand new to California, and we put in an application this past year for a food service member, and we were one of 12 applications accepted. The only one within the University of California system that was accepted, and again, one of 12 of the state. And so we're thrilled to have a brand new employee. We only had to make a $5,000 commitment to having a full-time employee for an entire year. So that person will be working with the local schools, trying to establish new community school gardens. And so really just trying to pull together that network. So we're really excited about that. I think with that was the only other thing that I wanted to highlight, so I'd be more than happy to take any comments or questions from all of you.
Does the board have any comments or questions they'd like to make?
I do. Scott, who is the representative for the Food Corps?
His name is Noah Crossan. And Noah just finished up an assignment in South America. He's originally from the East Coast, but a very young, energetic gentleman that is just really just jumping right into the local community.
Any other board comments? I attended your oak tree workshop in Amador.
Oh, good.
That's very good.
Yeah. That was a grant that Supervisor Callaway mentioned. We got a grant this last year for doing a series of workshops throughout our 4 counties basically on oak preservation and care, really trying to get the correct information about how to build around oaks, how to live and live around oaks, and really how to recognize problems and concerns with our oak woodlands. And so we had a number of workshops throughout our counties, and it was just a really fabulous project and got a lot of great information out to the local community on that.
Thank you, Mr. Onetta. Yeah, Mr. Bowman.
That reminded me, I attended the workshop we had here in Calaveras for it at the library, and it was quite informative. And the gentleman that was, I think he was a PhD from
Yes,
Berkeley.
Rick Standiford or Dr. Standiford, yeah.
Yeah, he was excellent.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of, he was really down to earth. I mean, he wasn't so, and I was prepared for some guy, the typical, university professor type, I've known a few in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But he was very, down to earth, very, cordial and willing to explain things for the people that were assembled there. And I thought it was very helpful, especially since that was just following up on a oak tree woodland, a hardwood advisory board meeting, which I don't think they've had in a while. I think it's kind of one of those things, it happens whenever it has to happen because of a mandate or something, but other than that, it doesn't happen. And I think that's a significant thing, especially looking, into the future where we see there might be a resurgence in development in the county, that these things are addressed appropriately so that we're not just compliant, which is a must, but that we actually are proactive in our considerations for preserving hardwood, native hardwood forest, and promoting plants that are, adapted to the terrain and the geography of where we live in terms of water use and those type of things that we can promote through education and through policy that this board determines. So thank you.
Thank you.
One comment. I just want to recognize Jennifer with 4-H. I think she does a wonderful job, and have many opportunities to interact with 4-H in what she does. And I also appreciate the newsletter that goes out to many people in regards to 4-H and the activities throughout the county. There's many, many youth activities for 4-H, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's a great program. And just to follow up on that, I didn't mention it, but just so you're aware, I think when we started this new partnership a couple of years ago, one of the big changes that we did make was we stretched Jennifer over 2 counties, and that was pretty tough. And so I think I did make this aware, but just to reiterate, a couple months ago we did make a change and brought her back to Calaveras County. We think it's best for the county. We think it's best for 4-H to really have somebody that just ingrained in the community. We're doing that program. So Jennifer is just working here in Calaveras County doing 4-H, and we think that really is best for the program and for our youth that are in that program. So thank you for making those comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renato.
Great.
Appreciate
Thank you so
your
much for your time
comments.
and your support. Appreciate it.
I'd like to move to public comments, 5 minutes per person, on items not on the agenda, and we will go till 10:30 at the latest. Any public comments after that will be done at the end of the board meeting.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Amy Boyce, Common Grant Senior Services, Millsville Wells. It's here, our luau's this weekend. It's our 3rd annual one for Millsville, so I'm really hoping that you all can be there. Just a few facts. Between Amarillo and Calaveras, primarily Calaveras, we have served over 50, I'll just take Calaveras, over 5,500 meals on a monthly basis on our senior nutrition program. The need is so great out there. I'm constantly getting calls about clients not able to pay for their prescriptions. And so that's where, that's a lot. The money's just not out there for them. Their prescriptions are so high, but not just that. It's like between their deductibles and whatnot, they don't have the monies for it. That's where Meals on Wheels, we do come in and, give them the nutritious food and stuff that they need. Basically, again, this is why I'm here. I just want to invite all of you all to our 3rd annual Luau fundraiser, Meals on Wheels at Utica Park. It's from 1 to 6. It's going to be great, great fun. I have tickets if anybody is interested. It's $20 for 60 and up to 59, and 16 over is $15. Children 12 and under are free. And like I said, it's going to be great fun. Please come out and support us. We really, truly need your help.
And it will be at?
Utica Park, thank you. Utica Park at Angels Camp, that's this Saturday. You should see our signs posted. We're so excited.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Hi, Brent Harrington, Interim Planning Director. I just wanted to let you know that I'm here. Started yesterday. Appreciate you deciding to select me, and I can tell it's going to be an interesting 4 months. I would like to meet with each of you at some point. I already have one set up with Supervisor Ponte on a topic that's already been dropped on me, and I'm sure there's a lot more that's going to be. But I did want to let you know I'm here, and I appreciate again for you selecting me for the position.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington.
Thank
we
you.
look forward to the next
Welcome
4
aboard.
months. Anyone else?
I need to do it. Sorry, Al.
Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. I told you last time I came that I had a plan for creating a resource in our county. And what I'd like to share with you first of all is because I've been here, really it's been 4 years, you guys. I've only missed 3 meetings in 4 years.
I'm sorry.
Pounding the pulpit, preaching about IHSS, etc. People have kind of recognized me as knowing something about services. So people come to me and ask me, do I know anybody that could help their mom, help their husband, outside of IHSS? Because as you know, IHSS only provides services for people that earn under $935 a month. So people that earn over that may have a hard time finding somebody if there's no resource. So because I know a lot of home care providers and housekeepers, I'm usually able to give them a couple of resources or referrals. But what if I croak tomorrow? What if I have a stroke and then there's nobody they could ask for a referral for somebody that could give them a hand in their home? For that reason, I think it's imperative that we set up something in our community, knowing how many senior citizens that we have. And we're not getting any younger. We're not all going to be able to do our own housework and figure out how many pills we need to take. Or sometimes we can't even look in the refrigerator and see rotten food, and we eat it and get sick. So there is a resource in this county that already exists. The public authority provides training to over 100 new home care providers every year. Now, total number of home care providers have never gone over 300. That means, consequently, we're losing about 100 home care providers every year. That means their clients pass away, maybe they get better, maybe they're put into a facility, but all these people who have undergone background checks, fingerprints, had some initial trainings to make them aware of elder abuse and mandated reporting and welfare fraud. We have, I know, over 500 people in Calaveras County who are not being home care providers right now and could be what do I want to say, drawn upon as a resource to be a referral for all of the people that need help. Now, it's not something that a person can do by themselves. It should be done through a program. And I can see a whole stew pot of home care providers being available to help elders, seniors that may need the assistance. If we had, and I imagine it, a clearinghouse sponsored by the IHSS Advisory Committee who could do the initial screening and allow the recipients of the services to also fill out an application, I think that it could very easily be obtained. And we would have something in this community that I haven't heard of any other communities or any other counties creating that would address something like that newspaper article I showed you last month about the gentleman that was murdered by his care provider. It needs, a little finesse, a little fine-tuning, but I think all the components are there, and with your direction, it might be attainable. With the cooperation of the public authority and the IHSS Advisory Committee, I think it could be successful. So that is what I wanted to share with you without giving you specifics because I've done a lot of thinking about it, but my thinking's not always real clear, but it's something that could be managed and I think would be a godsend for some people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
House of Gallant Taxpayer Association. We have two items. One is we'll be doing, on the 17th, we'll be doing a videotape in our program, and one of the guests is going to be a lady named Heather Gass, who's a realtor and quite an expert on global warming and on the dark side of sustainability.
Is her last name
So,
Gass?
Her last name is Gass. Gass, Heather Gass. She's got quite a reputation. She's a good speaker. And our program is only half hour, so we'll probably won't be able to go in the depth that would be necessary. Another item is on today's agenda, we'll be looking at contacting the state or CSAC about reducing the amount of regulations on pollution. And we're at a point now where the trucking industry is coming to a standstill or close to it because of this. But on that topic is, I'm not discussing that topic, but these regulations are based on a good deal of science that's not really true. It's kind of a false science, and this has to do with global warming. There's quite a bit of new information coming about that's not being reported and is not widely known. Most people are not aware that there has not been any global warming since 1998, and that the parallel between increasing carbon dioxide and global warming is not running parallel anymore. And so it raises questions among some honest scientists about is global warming by CO2 or not. And so there's more evidence indicating that it's not the case and that it may be being caused by the sun. There's a scientist...
Hey, Al, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Have you been to Glacier National Park before?
Excuse me?
Have you been to Glacier National Park?
Glacier National Park? No, I haven't.
No. Nearby. I'd love to go before they all melt.
Oh, okay. That's well noted. Did you know that one of the unreported things that the people are not aware of is that there's been a 60% increase in ice in Antarctica? Not Antarctica.
Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, how
but
do you know?
This was reported by legitimate scientists, but ignored by the media. Why would we got a bandwagon on global warming, and sometimes we're afraid to look at all the evidence. There's a lady. It's going to take me too long. Computers are. My brain is too slow for computers. But I was going to read a report by one of the scientists who's considered a lukewarm scientist with the UN organization on climate change, and she's calling for an end of the UN organization, the IPC, because of the distortion in information, and that they're not using scientific methods to provide information. That means that people that want to get accurate information on the climate are given propaganda instead. And so it comes out to be useless. Some of the projections practically all the projections that were given using the computer models have turned out to be false. We were supposed to have no ice at all in Antarctica by this year, and just the opposite is true. So, in a good first step that we're going to do today, I think, is to try to bring some sense to the regulations, but we need to go further and get some honest science behind it so that we'll stop doing damage to our economy. Thank you.
Mr. Skell, I don't think this Board of Supervisors has enough money to do what you're requesting us to do. Thank you for your comments.
Well, how much money do you need?
I don't know, to hire all those scientists to
Yeah.
tell us there's not any.
I think we should hire some scientists.
Peter Race, gentlemen. Polar bears quadrupled, and the glacier expanded 60% last year. That's fine, but that was not my point. And I never been there.
You went up there and checked
Excuse
it
me,
out?
I'm not debating. It's my 5 minutes, sir. The other thing point is that there's a certain thing called Antarctica, and there's a record-breaking expansion of ice. But that's not the reason I came up here to tell. What I would like for you folks to consider is that it would be nice down the road, and basically put some a little more extra work. I don't know. I know you don't know what to do with your spare time, but it would be nice to have some progress reports on some of the things that you folks approve and finance and etc. But after that, we don't hear anything about it. And I'm sure there were some very good causes, very worthwhile to finance it, but it just kind of disappears.
Actually, we heard one today.
Pardon me?
We just heard a progress report today.
That's good. That's wonderful. And we need more.
That's one.
That's okay. You guys are doing great.
Thank you.
I have a lot better than. Okay. Anyway, another thing, there's some people complaining that sometimes they don't get, let's say, just cooperation from people who are under your staff, not the elected ones, but your staff, of getting information.
We don't have any staff, Peter.
Pardon me?
We have no staff.
Oh, you have no staff.
The board has no staff.
Okay, what about all the, anyway. But the point I'm trying to make, if you recall, there were some attorneys that make a damn good living blackmailing counties about the handicap, excess, and so on. Him and his son milked a lot of counties. He's got paid off, so he's out of business for right now. But there are a lot of shysters out there who specialize when the Freedom of Information Act is not quite complied with. Now, I'm sure you have, because I got a copy of the CDs in case you don't, what the counties give to people who are in charge of those records, how they're supposed to handle it the proper way to minimize the liability in case they don't. But there's still shysters out there who would love to make some money off of it, and they have a guideline. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the guideline, but if anybody in TV land would like to have it, I have a copies of the guideline. I'd be more than happy to share, so people can come up and request, and how to request, and what verbiage to use to get information from the county. And they also, if anybody's interested, will be welcome to get the CD or the staff supposed to react and what to look for. So those are the two things I'd just like to share with you folks. And we do have some folks coming down here very soon, experts on new health care laws. It's going to affect everybody, and I'm sure that might cause a little headache over in the county also. And we do have a lady coming down, and I'm getting almost as bad as Al, got her name, but she will be coming down and give a lecture how to set up political activities, because there's certain activities in the county it's not forgotten. And it's not on the back, what called CCWD, and how to prepare, what we can do, and set up campaigns and etc. We're going to have that publicized also. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has any items they'd like to address that are not on the agenda and under the jurisdiction of the board? Okay, thank you. We're going to move to the consent agenda. I usually say these items are routine and non-controversial, but they always seem to be controversial. And does any member of the board wish to pull an item? I'm going to pull item 10. Any member of staff? Any member of the public? Okay, may I have a motion on the ballot, please?
So moved.
Motion by Supervisor Wright, second. Second. By Supervisor Ponte, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Did Mr. Edson and Mr. Spellman vote? Yes? Yes?
We voted with majority as far as we know.
I didn't see any lips moving.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Yes.
Brian Moss, acting as your air pollution control officer this morning. Item number 10 is actually a letter to the governor. The content and intent of the letter has not changed from what you see in your packet. Chair Callaway and I have been working on some minor changes, editorial changes, if you will, to it. And essentially what this letter is asking the governor to consider delaying the truck and bus regulations for diesel emissions cutoff line from January 1, 2014 to January 1, 2023, allowing the trucking, people who have trucks, trucking industry, if you will, to have greater time in coming into compliance. This is a letter or similar letters are being sent from other rural counties. And you'll notice on this letter that RCRC as well as CSAC is copied. So any questions on that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Are any questions or comments from the public?
That was what I was referring to previously, and you're to be congratulated in doing that.
Thank you. Could you repeat that again, please? May I have a motion on item 10?
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Spellman, second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor? Aye. So moved. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Okay. I'd like to move to item 11. It's selecting a member of the board to serve as the CSAC representative. I am the CSAC representative for this board. I'd like to continue if that's the pleasure of the board. If not, you can change your mind. And an alternate. Is there anyone who...
I'll be an alternate,
Okay.
unless Cliff would like to be.
No, thank you.
Okay.
But just so I understand this, is this part of CSAC they'd like a county supervisor from each county
Correct.
to serve on the board?
Correct.
Okay.
And an alternate. And there's subcommittees, which you can join any subcommittee. I serve on 3 subcommittees: Administration of Justice, Ag and Natural Resources, and Health and Human Services. And there's others, but if anyone
I'm
wants
only
to
on one subcommittee.
serve on any of them or do Health and Human Services, is fine. Okay, may I have a motion and thank you very much for Supervisor Callaway as the representative and Supervisor Wright as the alternate.
Is there any public comment on this?
Yes, would you like to make a couple of comment, Peter?
Yes, ma'am, I would.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I noticed there was a state that you have to do it because of the CSAC Constitution. So I presume that there's no state law that you have to be a member, first of all? That's one thing. It says there's no cost whatsoever. Does that mean that the supervisor's going to pay the due on its own, not the county? And how much is the exact dues? That's cost a few pennies, I believe. Also, just like the new annual meeting, registration. But if you register early, you save $25. It's almost $700 to register for dinner. Now, I can really appreciate Herschel Walker being a guest speaker on it, and I'm sure he's going to do a lot of enhance the county benefit, but that's one of the issues, folks. You vote whatever you're going to vote, but folks, you're going to be tagged with it, because I don't know how much you follow what this, and I call it a looting mob, because they are out there, in my humble opinion, screwing your constituents over. And a lot of your businesses around here. This is the organization that has no problem joining litigation to put a wedge in Prop 13 for commercial properties. The cost beside, I'm sure it's well worth it. When you go to their annual meeting, Sinbad might be wonderful entertainment, and Herschel Walker is going to do a lot of additional values to your knowledge to how to run this county. But that organization, and to me it's a schlocky, dirty organization. I don't want to mince word with it, but it is not doing any benefit to this county. First of all, it is run by basically LA, Sacramento, and San Francisco for their benefit. And there's a number of litigation that your dues, not your dues, our dues, the taxpayers' dues, joining litigation, undermining us, the taxpayers. I have a problem in an organization promoting The elected official can use taxpayers' money to promote any particular political ideology and values. Before it wasn't, but they got an exception. They're wanting an exception from Governor Brown. Now, since you all decide and you own it, and you will own it come the election time, because I don't want to go through all the litigation that your taxpayers required to fund. But these folks, the taxpayers, are getting shafted. Okay? So, folks, think about it real good, because the way it's been is disgusting and dirty, and if you continue it, you're going to be tagged with it. And because either you're going to support it out of ignorance or intentionally, but either way is not going to be a bright star attached to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. That was very enlightening.
Okay, I have a motion. I know. Can I have a motion?
Can I comment?
Pardon? Yes, you can make it come.
Just so you're aware, Peter, there are some things I agree with you and some things I disagree, but that's how we operate, right? In truthfulness and frankness. Right.
That's
Yeah.
Mr. Spellman.
Well, it's my 5 minutes now, so.
Mr. Spellman, please, just go ahead. Peter, please.
One of the subcommittees that I sit on is HLT, Housing, Land Use, and Transportation. One of the things they're focused on right now at the state level is what they call the 50 plan, and that is where we're going to be in 2050, where the state projects that we'll have 50 million residents in the state. And, you know, some people look at that and say, this may be an opportunity for overzealous legislators at Sacramento and other places to put policies upon us that would strip away our rights. But what I see is, from my perspective, is that they're acknowledging the fact that we're going to expand from what currently is around 37 million people to 50 million people. That's another 13 million people. So most of the time when I hear people complain about government agencies when it comes to housing, land use, and transportation, they're usually arguing the point of people that are ensconced or entrenched in no-growth policies. So to me, this clearly shows the state is aware that there will be growth and that they're trying to prepare for it in sustainable ways, shall we say, that we'll all be able to have the goods and services that we need, hopefully, if we have the correct planning in place. It's not my opinion that the correct planning currently exists, but as a participant in that subcommittee, which CSAC is the umbrella for, I think that it gives a voice to people like myself, who I am your elected representative, to voice your concerns at a state level through CSAC as to how housing, land use, and transportation should affect our little area of the world here in Calaveras County. Just so you know, FYI.
Thank you. Yes.
I'd just like to say, I always look at all these organizations that we belong to with a kind of a critical eye. And, one of the things coming on board, seeing CSAC, not knowing that much about it, kind of understanding why the organization was in place. But, as I, as a supervisor, sit here, need education and knowledge what happens beyond Calaveras County and what's happening at the state level. And I do find this particular organization to be very helpful. That it's provided me with a tremendous amount of opportunities to learn more about legislation that is floating out there, or legislation perhaps that needs to be cleaned up, or whatever the cases might be. And I find out through their various newsletters and alerts that they send out and that sort of thing. So it's been a very powerful thing for me, just on an educational level, to see how some of these things affect our rural county, but sometimes on a statewide level as well. So I've also found CSAC has been a tremendous educational opportunity for many county departments in their various associations and work that's needed. We don't always sometimes we operate within our own four walls or bubble in our various departments and don't have that opportunity to look beyond Calaveras County and look at the state level as to what's going on and how some of this legislation pending or in development, or maybe it's already been passed, how it truly affects us. And I think it's a real critical thing that we continue participating, because I've also find if you don't speak up and share your voice beyond Calaveras County, we'll never be heard, and we'll let it go to other people. And I think it's very important that we stand up and submit our comments, pro or con, on things. And, I appreciate what the work Marita and others have done in regards to participating at CSAC, and would like more opportunity at the board level to hear some of the from your perspective when you attend these meetings to what's going on and where things might be going. I hope that if CSAC is looking at, quote, suing or doing whatever, that they have their funding sources in place to be able to seek additional funding for those kinds of things. But when I look overall at CSAC, I really find the educational component that they bring to us is invaluable. And I know that I look at the rule component. I can't give them offhand, but that's another important educational arm, because their true focus is rural RCRC. Thank you. It's very rural in nature, and I think that's important too, to have that component to bring back to the board. So those are my comments.
And in terms of the, yes.
So I had the opportunity to go to the new Supervisors CSAC conference in Long Beach when I first got elected, and there was nothing else offered anywhere around except for that. And I found that it was very organized, it was very neutral in politically, and there was tons of opportunity for education, more than I could do in 3 days that I was there. The classes that I'll call them classes, or the conferences that I attended, were very helpful for me to step into this job, although it didn't prepare me for everything. But it definitely gave me a perspective on what it should be at a neutral point. And the one thing I also noticed, and I wish that some of our staff could attend, is that they also have a lot of good classes for folks that work, like Diane works in her position, or Lori, or county council, and so that people can see what other folks are doing throughout the country, or throughout California, which to me is a good idea, because we aren't always right in what we do. We may be able to pick up something that's more valuable that could help us out here in the county, number one. Number two, when I know that some people think that Sacramento and Los Angeles and the Bay Area runs CSAC, but there's 58 counties that belong to CSAC. Each county has its representatives and their vote, so they are equal. That makes us more equal than we are right now at a point that we're always fighting against the larger populous areas for the vote, like in our general elections. So, and they advocate for what the vote is at that point, and I think that's valuable myself. I like CSAC, and I like what they do. The folks that are in there right now are top notch from what I've seen. A couple of the classes that Chris and I went to, he was bored, probably because he went through it before somewhere, but I wasn't bored. I was excited about it. I like to be educated and to see what other counties are doing. Another one, like Debbie mentioned, was RCRC. I'm really excited about RCRC as well. And those folks seem to want to come and just help us do what we need to do to make our county successful. So we can't do it alone. We need help with it.
All right, thank you. You've had your 5 minutes, and it's now back at the board. There is a legislative arm, and our county council is part of that. There's a CAOs Association, there's a Public Works component of CSAC. So
I think almost every department, right? Assessor and auditor and...
No, assessor's separate, auditor's separate.
Okay.
But
Sheriff?
no, they're separate too.
Okay. Okay.
State Sheriff's Association, State Police Officers, State DA's Association.
But you mentioned law, so I thought
we have
maybe...
a legal component, and
Right.
Janice is a member of that,
Right.
and we get a legal of all the cases that are heard where CSAC might or might not take a position.
Right. And aren't they taking a position here recently, Supervisors, on something?
Sorry.
Isn't CSAC taking a position to help us on
Yes.
something you had mentioned
Yes.
before? Yeah.
Okay, let's bring it back. I have a motion and a second. I don't have a motion and a second.
I'll make a
Again,
motion.
we've been doing, I have a motion by Supervisor Edson, a second.
I'll second.
By Supervisor Ponte, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so moved. Thank you. I'd like to move to item 12, a resolution establishing a CD fee and increase the microfiche fee for recorded documents provided to title companies and the public.
Good morning. Madeline Kurska, County Clerk Recorder, and I have with me Robin Glanville, who is my fiscal person, and she alerted me to something that I was aware of earlier on in the year. Our cost for microfilm has gone up dramatically since Kodak is the sole provider. We provide images, or have actually, with microfilm to our different vendors, being title companies purchase those. So we want to convert to CD, which will make them happy as well as ourselves, because it will in the end result in less cost to my department, to the general fund, and to the public. So we've prepared documentation showing our study for this. And one, thank you, Marina, you brought to our attention, we had specified in our memo that scanning and verifying and extracting images to master CDs are each jobs the clerk recorder is legally bound to perform. We're not legally bound to perform those, but that's the procedure we use to be able to extract and provide a CD and to provide our microfilm for permanent storage. Is there any other questions?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item? I knew it.
I'm glad.
I reviewed this, and I have some background in the state, and I think it's a very good idea, and our taxpayers group would urge you to approve it.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're talking about financing, because probably you folks avoided one little question. It says financing for CSAC, no impact on the county.
We are talking about the...
And I'm talking about financial impact, ma'am, and I'd like to have an answer. Is there no financial impact on CSAC of these taxpayers? Thank you.
Madeline, please go ahead.
Actually, was he addressing me or?
No.
Okay, all right.
No, you're okay.
Okay, thank you. So if there's any other questions, and again, just to emphasize, our records, we have to retain them for perpetuity. So this is part of the process, and it will, in effect, be more efficient and more cost-effective for everyone.
Is there a point where you can destroy or shred the original documents if you microfiche or CD them?
Well, the original documents for titles go back to the property owner. So what we're scanning...
what you're scanning.
Yeah, what we're scanning is the copy that's held.
Okay. All right. I have a motion. Any other comments on this item? I have a motion by Supervisor Wright, second by Supervisor Edson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move to item 13, a resolution authorizing changes to the position control list for probation department.
Good morning, Steve Siegel from probation.
I'll go ahead and lead with Stephen since I did it. Good morning, Francine Osborne, Director of Human Resources. As you know, we're recruiting for a chief probation officer, and at that time, we actually thought we would be making an offer and having somebody on board. So during budget proceedings, we actually put all of the probation personnel requests on hold. And so what you have before you here is, since we were unsuccessful in that recruitment, this will actually has no general fund impact, and it actually assists the probation department in staffing. And so it's outlined for you here in the board packet. The department is actually proposing to delete probation unit supervisor and believes that he has enough supervision in the department with the staffing. It actually provides a savings of approximately $99,728. With that money, the probation chief interim is proposing to fund and create a new clerical, which also in turn creates savings because they're using extra hire money for that. And so now they'll be putting that towards it along with savings. So 2 more things. He's reclassing a legal clerical assistant to a paralegal. They currently have each in the department, and actually it provides them more flexibility and efficiency if they can use them and cross them between units. And then finally, with the savings from the probation unit supervisor, they're asking to create a new deputy probation officer. Again, there's no impact to the general fund because they're eliminating a supervisory position and restructuring the staff, and we recommend approval of this.
So is anybody losing their job?
No.
Is this position unfilled right now, the elimination?
It is.
And the reclassification of the legal clerical assistant?
There is someone in the legal clerical.
Okay.
And so they would be reclassed to the paralegal.
So they qualify for this?
Yes. They're actually performing duties that the paralegal is right now. And so for morale's sake and to acknowledge the fact that this person is performing the duties and give the department the ability, if one's out, to be able to allow them to utilize them.
Okay.
They should be equal.
All right. And then, so with all of these changes, that extra hire goes away for the time being?
Yes.
It's not needed?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But you still want some more probation officers. And I remember
One
your
more.
comments at budget time. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Supervisor Wright.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Ponte. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Thank
you, Mr. Siegel. Appreciate it. Item 14. Possible action regarding the schedule of board meetings for the balance of 2013. Ms. Severud, did you want to take this?
Usually when we get close to the holiday season, we have a few agenda items that are scheduled for the meeting, the second meeting in November. And this year, we do not have a second meeting in December due to that meeting falling on the Christmas Eve holiday. So what staff is proposing is that we cancel the November 26th meeting and then reschedule the December 10th meeting to December 17th, creating a shorter lapse of time between the meeting in December and the first meeting in January.
But then it's a long span from November to December. Right? From the first meeting.
It's a week difference. It's 1 week. From the first meeting in November to
You're canceling November. Oh.
You have a meeting on November 12th. We would be recommending you cancel the meeting on November 26th.
Yeah, so then you go from November 12th to
December
December
17th.
17th.
Yes.
So that's what I mean, that's a long span.
It is.
Is that?
1 week longer than it would normally be.
Okay.
So historically, we have canceled that second November meeting regardless and not made any change in the December schedule. So what we're doing is just trying to kind of adjust it and making it a more even time frame for staff to be able to prepare items to be on the agendas.
Okay.
Would it be beneficial to have a December 3rd and 17th meeting?
We are actually discussing the potential of having a special meeting on the board on December 3rd. As you may recall, we sent
Right.
you out an email about that. That would be more of a priority setting meeting for the board.
Like a workshop or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Just my concern, I know sometimes at the end of year, there's this big crunch to get something done because of policy starting January 1, or, I know in Madeline's office with real estate stuff. So does the 17th kind of allow for that? Is there anywhere to kind of pre-warn?
We've already pre-warned department heads that this item was coming to the board
Okay.
In this manner, so that if they had anything, that they could start planning accordingly based on whatever decision was made today.
Okay.
And I would add, I haven't been here at the end of the calendar year. We have a big, a higher level of activity closer to the end of the fiscal year, since we run on a fiscal year. I would defer to my colleagues. I think Lily Janice has mentioned sometimes there is a little spike at the end of the calendar year, but our biggest,
more like June.
Our highest level of activity is generally in June.
Okay.
And most of the spike was related to Williamson Act contracts, which we're not seeing too many of anymore for specific reasons.
Okay.
Mr. Spellman.
Just my thoughts on this personally is that we should just stick to the second and fourth Tuesdays. And if somebody has to be gone because of vacationing or other holiday festivities or whatever, that they just excuse themselves, through the chair and let it be known. That way, there's no confusion with the public as to when these things are. One of the things I hear from some other organizations in the county that change their program, their meeting times, places, and other things quite often, not just holidays. The general consensus, or some, at least there's a majority of thought out there that they're trying to, disenfranchise or make it more difficult for people to participate.
So you want to meet at Thanksgiving?
It's not on Thanksgiving.
No, but it historically was canceled anyway.
We canceled it anyway.
At the first meeting in November, allowing staff and the public not to have time to prepare.
Well, then I guess if you wanted to cancel any meeting because of the holidays, I would say cancel it, but don't move it to a different week. If you meet on the second and fourth Tuesday, then just meet one of those Tuesdays instead of changing the date to the third Tuesday or something different like that. Just meet the first Tuesday and not the fourth one, or whatever the case is, so that we're still consistent with the day and time and place. But we maybe just delete, one of the meetings if it's, too close. I noticed the one in December is on Christmas Eve, But I think that'd be cool. I'd like to show up here.
There's no meeting.
Okay.
Because it's a county holiday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, when you're consistent with the second and fourth, and all of a sudden you have to move a regular meeting, it can be confusing to folks who don't maybe necessarily follow us on a regular basis.
So just cancel the meeting instead?
Just have it on the second Tuesday of December. So keep it on the 10th.
Keep it on there?
Yeah.
And cancel the 26th?
Yes.
November, yeah.
So then you go 1, 2.
I just think it's more consistent, and then it's not any, moving
4 and 5.
make a moving target, and people kind of question everything.
Sure.
And then third may be a special
I think
meeting.
that we should do that third. I do want to get the priorities set, going into the next year.
Yeah.
That special meeting on the 30th.
On the 3rd.
So meet December 10th and not the 17th, and we go 5 weeks till our next
So we
meeting.
would, from what I'm hearing is, it would be, you would meet on November 12th as scheduled, cancel November 26th, and remain on December 10th.
And with a possible special meeting on the 3rd. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not opposed to meeting on the 26th. I'd like to still meet on that fourth Tuesday. And anybody that needs to be gone for Thanksgiving can indicate to the chair.
Well, I think that's more of
We were
a...
talking about staff planning items.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not caring about us.
You don't care? Well, we could open up and have public comment and then go home in an hour.
I'm actually just not having any holidays at all, so
Yeah.
26 is fine with me.
Okay, so
I'm okay with
we
that.
meet November 12, we meet December 10, and possibly a special meeting December 3.
Well, actually, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we continue to meet as scheduled, as our normal schedule on the normal second and fourth Tuesday, with the only exception being Christmas Eve, which is a noted holiday. That's my motion. I'm looking for a second.
Dies for lack of a second. Is there another motion?
Okay, I'll make a second motion. Since it dies for lack of a second, I'll make a motion that we meet on the regularly scheduled times, with the exception of the 24th, with December 24th, which is Christmas Eve, and apparently November 26th, which is stinky to some people to be here on the week of
The day after
Thanksgiving.
Okay, so
I actually like Darren's first motion.
So is that a second then?
I'll
on the
second
first
that
motion?
one.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
So could you repeat your first motion?
The first motion repeated was that we carry on with our meetings as scheduled on the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month, the only exception being the 24th of December, which is Christmas Eve, which is a nationally recognized holiday.
I have a motion by Supervisor Spellman, a second by Supervisor Edson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
No.
Debbie, you're a yes. So we're going to meet on November 26th.
Good. We'll just keep it the same then with a special on the 3rd. Is that what you said in your motion?
I didn't address the third.
That is good.
Okay.
We didn't
Okay.
address the
Yeah, it
We're
wasn't
just
part
not
of
going
it.
to have the 24th. Oh, okay. That's cool.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to move to item 15. Mr. Wright.
All right, great. This weekend we have the Lumberjack Days in West Point. It's a fantastic turnout. It's amazing how many people can actually fit into West Point. It was standing room only, literally, and just to be great to it's great to see everybody out there. They have everything from the soapbox derby to Old West shootout reenactments to top booths and music and great food and of course the lumberjack experience is something pretty impressive. I'd always, I cut my own firewood, but what these guys can do is truly amazing. And my my only hope is that in the future we can actually have a mill back up in the West Point area, so we can have more people locally employed, and also loosen up some of our own county regulations on the use of building codes. Right now we can't use, if you have your own timber, you can't use your own wood structurally on your own property to build your own house in Calaveras County. And so that's something that we control as a board. I'd like to examine, unless that wood is stamped. So I'd like to look at that into the future. Because it is our heritage, and we are surrounded by lots of trees in lots of District 2. So I'd like to open that up for future board discussion. Another really impressive thing was we got funding for Ponderosa Road through the UMRA board meeting that Cliff and I attended. This funding should go to fix the road from Highway 26 down to the McCollum River. I'd like to thank the whole board for supporting that action that we took earlier this spring. Now we did get the funding approved. We still haven't received it, but hopefully within this next year that money will come through. It helps a lot with fixing. We have a lot of county maintained roads out there. I think it's like almost 700 miles of county maintained road, and so it's really important that we're able to use outside funding to fix the county maintained roads that we can. Obviously, I'd like to get more funding for Sheep Ranch Road and many roads throughout my district in the county. Luckily, we were able to get this funding through the work of a lot of volunteers and our cooperation with UMRA. So I'm really excited about that. Hoping that Ponderosa works really well because it's part of the tourism access to our natural resources, access to why we live here. And it's beautiful. We got the McCollum River right there, and we need to continue to expand our access for us locals to have access to the river and to the lakes like Shad's Reservoir. We need to expand that access for us locally, and it's for bringing in tourism, bringing in dollars to show off our beautiful landscape. So with that, I'll step off my soapbox.
Supervisor Conte.
A couple of things going on in the district. We have next Saturday in Angels Camp. They're celebrating their 165th birthday. I'd like to know what Mark Twain would think of that. And Fall Festival, so it's a combination of the Business Association and Destination Angels Camp and the birthday committee putting together. So that's October 19th. A unique situation where Highway 49 will be closed for about 6 hours that day. So it'll be a fun day all the way around. And then on November 11th, which is a Monday, is Veterans Day. The local chapter of the Veterans is having a parade in Copperopolis. So they'll be on O'Byrne's Ferry Road for a couple of hours and honoring our veterans who have served a number of various wars. So that's on a Monday, November 11th. The COG the Wagon Trail, is hosting another informational meeting for property owners along Wagon Trail, plus other interesting or those who are interested in the project. And that's going to be on Thursday, October 24th. From 6 to 8, and that will be at the Bret Hart Multipurpose Room. So they're trying to balance. The last meeting was in Copperopolis, this one being in Angels Camp. So there'll be an update. And we heard at the COG meeting progress that's being made along for the Wagon Trail project and break it down into maybe a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 type situation because funding is more realistic for the planning, the engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and eventually construction. So that kind of information will be shared at the public meeting with the various maps in the areas that they're taking a look at. This Friday, Bret Hart will host their homecoming. Won't be playing Calaveras, so that's it for another day, but we'll be hosting Amador in Angels Camp, and our team will be playing there. So if you go through Angels Camp, you'll see all sorts of purple and gold festivities happening. One of the nice things I think what the students are doing here is every day they have what they call Spirit Day, and either dress in pajama day or reversible clothing day or whatever it might be. But today I think it's pretty special because it's all about wearing pink, and they're recognizing Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I think that was a very nice venture out on the students there to kind of look beyond the purple gold and look at pink and recognizing Breast Cancer Awareness Month. For myself, just been meeting with folks in the district in regards to roads. Very interesting learning more and more about roads and lighting. Whose light pole belongs to who and what district, and who's responsible for the bulbs. So never ceases to amaze me when you think you know just about every road in your district, you find another one. So very interesting, but working with Public Works and determining who's responsible for what road or what association and that sort of thing. So anyway, we'll see. Bottom line, every road I find is, we just need money to fix them. So lots of local challenges for funding in our road department. That's all I have.
Supervisor Stoner.
Actually, for the lighting piece of the improvement, Chair Callaway and I are both sit on the LAFCO Commission, and they oversee special districts, which lighting districts fall under. So.
Well, there's some poles out there that nobody wants to claim that have a light on them.
So they don't belong to a light. Somebody has to pay for the electric bill. It's going somewhere.
Well, I know. There's a couple in my district that's...
Unless somebody just rigged it up without getting any permission. Our council is laughing, so I must be getting close to the source of the truth.
Or you're really far away.
Yeah, one or the other. One or the other. I suspect it's more like the first. Somebody's rigged it up somehow without any permission.
Yeah.
I would just like to say that I want to keep my comments brief, and I want to thank a number of people. I want to thank the County Public Works Department. I want to thank the Calaveras County Council of Governments. I'd like to thank Ms. Marty Crane, who's in the audience here today, and others who have worked for many, many years to try to have adequate public transportation delivered to Rancho Calaveras, which is in desperate need of it. This morning, on my way to the Government Center, I was running at a very brisk pace as usual, trying to get here on time, and I had to travel a little bit slower than normal because I was behind a public transportation bus on Baldwin, which is not a common sight, but apparently it will be in the future. And I want to thank all those that were involved in that process. We have members of this board that also represent us on a COG, and I thank you for any interaction or responsibility that you had in making that happen. 1 out of every 9 people in the county live in Rancho Calaveras and Jenny Lind. And so to say that there aren't any disabled, low-income, or otherwise needing public transportation people that live in that area would be a farce. And so I welcome these 3 new bus stops that are being put in, and I hope that we'll generate the right, we'll get even more for the future.
Yes.
Well, I can't even read my writing there, Marita.
I can't either.
So on Tuesday night, I went to Pink in the Night at the Terrace, and there was a lot of folks there, and it's a breast cancer awareness month, their celebration for that, and Nikki Stevens was one of the instrumental from Mark Twain, or it's from
Mark Twain.
Yeah, that's close enough. They're from Dignity Health. Was instrumental in putting that together, and there was the Terrace was alive and kicking that night. There was a lot of kids there. That was a blast to see, and so this month is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so that was enlightening. There was a few speakers and a couple of singers, or one singer actually, and our vocalist. I'll say that. I say that for our vocalist, and so it was a real good evening. Weather was perfect as well. On Wednesday, I was invited by the Sheriff's Department to fly over Calaveras County, or at least my district. I couldn't fly over any other part of the county because I don't like carnival rides like I used to, apparently. So we were in this little helicopter that I barely fit in, by the way. And Chris fit in just fine, but I barely fit in, so I can't figure that one out. He got to ride also on it in his district. When he came off the helicopter, he was smiling and acting like he just had a great time. I was just waiting for the ride to end, actually, and
it's very informative.
Yeah. So we were just cruising over Calaveras County to check out the many gardens that are out there, beautiful ones, and so it was very informative. I was glad I was able to do it. I think it was worthwhile. Kind of gives you an idea on what's going on in your backyards and your neighborhoods. Maybe that's not the correct way to say it. Your neighbor's backyard, maybe. But the county is beautiful even from up there. It looks a little flatter from up there, I got to tell you. But when she was banking and making those turns, I didn't really care what it looked like, to tell you the truth. I just wanted to get out. So, and on Saturday, I went to the Grape Stomp, and that's the first Grape Stomp I've ever been to. It was a blast. I got to tell you, everybody there was smiling and having a great time. It could have been the wine that they started drinking at 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. Maybe that had something to do with it, but I know Diane was there as a grape stomper. Miss Diane Severud here with her team. Oh yeah, we got actually I have pictures. So and you know it was there were so many participants, and what's really cool about this festival, this is to me is a one-of-a-kind festival, only in Calaveras, is that people come from all over the country, and in some cases out of state, to do this. And they have like their theme for their team. So they all wear these different outfits, which I think was really cool. One of the ones I thought was funny was this man and his wife in a tie-dye shirt with shorts on. Their team name was Grateful Dead. You know, like Grateful Dead, only Grateful Dead. Yeah. And actually, they won, didn't they? Yeah, they took first place. That guy had some really big feet. Did you notice that? So
They won before, too, I think.
yeah, so that was great. The other thing that I went to on Sunday was, and I could only go in the morning, that was the Family Fest in Valley Springs. And this is a new festival that is trying to get started on this end of the county. And I feel that it will be a good festival soon. Probably within the next couple of years, it'll probably, our goal is to rival the Grape Stomp. Okay, so that's the goal.
One that's out in Burson?
Yeah, it's at Burson, in Burson at the Dodasa Ranch, and there's a lot of fun things for kids to do out there, and I think it's going to be a really good event. I had to leave before the event really got started, but it seemed like it was getting a good head start. So hopefully we have a good one this end of the county. At both of these events, we have a very diligent person working for the county. She works under Brian Moss. Her name is Erica, and she is the food inspector. She was at both of these events, making sure that things were done properly. And what I did notice, she was watching them and I was watching her. What I did notice is she actually made it possible for some folks to be able to go ahead and operate, because she was able to sign them up right there, making sure that they did things the way you're supposed to do, food handling and that sort of thing. And she was really, really nice about it. So it's a good example of our county doing the right thing for our community. And she, I just want to compliment her. I already complimented her through Brian, but I just wanted to compliment her publicly, because the folks that were on the other end of the deal with the booths, a lot of people just go out there and they don't really, they just set up camp. Well, they don't know that much about food handling, and she was there to help them do that and to make sure that things were safe for the public. So, thank you, Erica. That's it for me.
Very nice. And thank you for coming. The Friends and Neighbor magazine, this issue, has an article about Kathy Zancanella and our Calaveras Airport, so I encourage everybody to get a copy and read it. Very nice article about Kathy. I'll be going to, I do want to say I like hearing Supervisor Wright and Connie talk about morning money for their roads. Welcome to one of the biggest things that we get a lot of calls on.
Yeah, we got money for one.
And never, Ponderosa.
That's right.
Yeah. And we did take away money from Public Works in the budget for roads.
Sure, but we get some money back too.
I did ask. I went to the road department in Arnold yesterday to see. I just stopped in and talked to the crews of the road foreman.
You have one in your district?
About, yes, getting ready for winter.
I don't.
Yes, well, we have all the snow plows too, and the chipper. But it's nice to hear supervisors talk about roads, because then we have the road fight money. Well, I want my roads done. Well, I want my roads done. Anyway, I'm going to the Sierra Business Council meeting. Yeah, I know you do. Sierra Business Council green drinks tonight. I've been elected to the executive committee for RCRC, and I represent 6 counties.
Are you going to get more money for roads then?
Am I going to get more money for roads? Hey, I don't know, maybe. I'll see, Mono, Amador, Alpine, Tuolumne, El Dorado, and Calaveras. So at the conference a week or so ago, they elected me to the executive committee, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. I'll be at Common Ground on Saturday. I'll have the Greater Arnold Business Association, Calaveras Public Power Agency. I don't need you to go because I'll be in town.
I got that email.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed. I liked
You're
going
still
to the,
welcome.
I liked going to the power.
You can still come.
Group
You're
meeting.
welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome to
I know
come.
you've already.
Same time, same place.
Yeah.
On the 17th, 18th, I'll be going to a broadband workshop conference in Sacramento. I just feel like we're never going to have economic development in the rural counties if we don't get broadband.
Yeah, who's that?
And
Marina, who's that?
Sonny McKee is doing that. It's the Center for something or other, but they're big proponents of broadband. And I've gotten several calls, and I'm in touch with Howard, but he was gone to see if he was going to. But for me, I've been hearing about we need to get broadband to rural counties for years, and I'm saying, okay, I mean, we know it's come to Government Center, Office of Education, it's going through 9 or 18 counties. We've seen them digging up the roads in all the counties, but until we can get the middle mile built, I mean, for me, it's up the Highway 4 corridor. I'm sure for Supervisor Wright, it's down the Highway 26 corridor.
Mountain Ranch would also like.
Or you're not going to get your providers such as AT&T, Verizon, Calaveras, whatever, to connect because they're not going to put the middle mile in. So I just feel like we need to be there. We need to know, I need to make sure the rural counties, and especially, of course, Calaveras, are represented. Cliff and I will be going on a tour of Calaveras, California Waste Recovery System Recycling Plant, and the CAO Norton will be joining us. The director of Area 12 Agency on Aging, Pauline White, announced at our meeting that she will be retiring, and we have someone we're going to put in on an interim basis. We really have to decide how we want to manage that, but we're looking at putting someone in for 6 months and seeing how this person does. Another thing that I would like to see, and I don't know if it was planned for the meeting of the 3rd, but I'd like to see this board set up legislative priorities or positions. We do that at CSAC, we do that at RCRC, so that department heads know when bills come up, it doesn't have to come to the board all the time unless they want the chair to sign on behalf of the board. Or when I asked the board for recommendations on an item for 740, again, a broadband one, I had to come to the board, and time ran out, so I just sent a letter and made phone calls on my behalf, not on behalf of the board. But if we do that, then departments would know that they could write a letter in support of a healthcare thing or an air pollution item like we had today. So I guess I'd like to see us set something up. It's not a high priority, but it's on the to-do list, if that's okay with the rest of the board. This is a yes to me.
Aye.
And I, okay,
Aye.
thank you. I have the rim trail down. Oh, I'm going to be working the rim trail this weekend too. So if any of you would like to come help create a path, meet at the Forest Service office at 8:30 on Saturday.
Even with the government shutdown?
Oh, my gosh, I forgot about that.
You got that
We
by
could
yourself.
maybe, well, no, it's all volunteers with the exception of one person from the Forest Service. God, thanks. Debbie. I might not be doing it.
I can't go to my favorite lake.
Okay.
Oh, I hope it fins.
Okay, that's all I have.
I have one more item.
Yes.
Fish and Game Commission. I did want to report that Janice was kind enough to come to our last Fish and Game meeting and try to make some sense as to where we are in regards to this important commission. And so I just want to thank Janice for her time, and I thought she really kind of laid it out in layman's terms for all of us to understand. So we have some conflict with resolution versus ordinance versus state law, I guess you might say. And so she'll be meeting with the commission again this month in October and taking a look at how we can better structure ourselves to be within the legal limits of where we need to be. With that, the Fish and Game Commission had some active discussion about a particular bill. I can't think of the proper name of it.
AB 711.
AB 711. Basically, which is calling for the elimination of lead bullets. And so it's on the governor's desk. If he does not sign it, if he ignores it, for lack of a better word, it becomes law. Fish and Game Commission feels strongly. It was actually I think a 7-1 vote, if I recall, to write a letter, asking the board to write a letter opposing this particular bill, and felt it was important to do so. And so I'm asking if the board would so be, it was in our correspondence, the verbiage of the letter, in writing a letter in support of this particular bill to ask the governor not to sign it.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do that? It's not agendized like the one we wrote for truck and buses today. And time's running out because he had 30 days, and I think he has to sign it by
October, we got mixed, either October 12th or October 14th. Time is running out. We've actually been checking the governor's website daily.
The board should probably take public comment on that issue. So I would suggest maybe we would want to take a vote on the board whether they want to add it to the agenda due to the time restraints.
Right.
Which you can't do on a focus vote.
Urgency item.
Yes.
Or Supervisor Ponte could write her own letter.
Yes.
The board members could write their own.
Could I write it on behalf of the Fish and Game, noting that I'm a member of Fish and Game and our local commission supported this?
Absolutely.
Okay, maybe I'll do that then, because I was at the meeting and understood their position. Basically, if there's no lead in the bullets, then there's no form of hunting in Calaveras County and other areas of California.
What are they going to use besides that?
There's no other option at this point.
Okay.
Can you have a hearing on it, the public
All right.
comments and stuff?
Yes.
Good idea.
So you want to do that?
Yes.
Have a public hearing
Huh? No.
today, or?
I'm asking Debbie if she wants to do that.
Well, AB 711, yeah.
No. There's two options. We can say it's an urgency and come to the board, or Supervisor Ponte can write the letter on behalf of the Fish and Game Commission.
Right, the Fish and Game Commission is a legal arm of the Board of Supervisors, and this was held, it's a public meeting, open to the public. It's held here in this particular room. It was agendized on their agenda, and there was probably a good 30-minute discussion. It had been discussed in previous meetings just in general, but at this particular meeting, there was a vote called to write a letter asking the governor to take a stance, oppose this, and not just let it slide through and be vetoed and into law.
Okay, I think that's
What
a
are they?
good idea.
I don't even understand the law.
Is there? I
They
know,
just
I
gonna ban
haven't
all
read it.
shooting?
No, just the bullets.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Lead ammunition.
I like that. I'd like to open up for any public comments on the last item that Supervisor Ponte was talking about.
Allison County Taxpayer Association. I understand that the need not to have a lot of lead, which is kind of poisonous, and I'm not sure if the purpose is not to have animals shot with lead, but shot with something else, or just the amount of lead that gets spread around when you shoot and when you're hunting. And I don't think this pertains to shooting ranges because they take care of their own lead. The question I have is that the ammunition manufacturers are nationwide. They're not just in California. And so by passing this law, what effect will that have in our relationships with those manufacturers? Would those manufacturers suddenly come up with another substance rather than lead just in California? Or would they just exclude California in the manufacturing of bullets? Another question is, what are the actual benefits in doing this? Can we quantify that some way? And then the last question is, what are the economic impacts to the recreational shooting industry and also to law enforcement? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gallen. I don't know. I haven't read the bill, so I can't answer those good questions.
You're a gentleman, and yes, we are having a gentleman, and my old age showing is Sam, he's one of the head of one of the big national organization.
Paredes.
Pardon me?
Paredes. Sam Paredes.
Yeah, he's coming up here to talk to us, okay? I heard him talk up at Amador County, the truth and falsities of the lead bullets and lead beads. I would hope that you might consider, if you want to make a statement, hold off for it to the public input on it. But there is pros and controversy on it. Okay, I mean, I know what is state coming from, but what is truth and what is false, there's a big difference, there's a big margin from it. Okay, so I would hope that you might consider putting it on the agenda, talk about it. I know the past board was afraid to put certain issues on the agenda, like Agenda 21 and so on. So it's going to be gone outside of your control. It's going to be discussed publicly in the county. But this is another issue concerning firearms, their rights, Second Amendment. There's some people who might be interested.
We don't have time for it to go on the agenda because the governor signs all bills or doesn't sign all bills this week.
I'm not talking about what the governor is going to do. As far as I'm concerned, what the governor is going to do, I know what the speech and agenda values he has from when he was a mayor of Oakland. So I'm quite clear where he's coming from. I'm talking about you folks, where you stand. Okay? So I just want you to consider it. Issue on the Second Amendment. A few people might be interested in it. Just a suggestion. Either you do it here or
that's fine. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Hi, Vicki Reinke from Angels Camp. Now that this has opened up and you're talking about this topic, I figured I might as well give my input if that's what you're asking for. And my husband watches all the bills on gun rights and all of that, so truthfully I'm not 100%, but I know that there was a problem with taking lead out of bullets and something was going to, it would, like you said, maybe stop hunting. And to hear that Fish and Game are opposed to this bill going through, I think it's very powerful for you to write that letter under their title asking the governor to veto that bill. And it's right. It's, I think, October 13th that we have until he just lets everything go through and it becomes law. So I just, as a citizen, encourage you to go and do that. And, you know, we can still have the conversations. There's plenty to have.
Right.
Thanks.
So if it's all right with the board, Supervisor Ponte will write a letter on behalf of the Calaveras County Fish and Game Commission versus the Board of Supervisors.
So they have written a letter, so I will just endorse that on my letterhead.
Well, I'm not voting for something where I haven't read the bill.
Right.
Well, we could probably pull it up.
Take a recess for 10 minutes.
Yeah, we have plenty of time.
Do you all want to write the letter on behalf of the board?
I do.
What I would do is the
think
Fish and
it's
Game.
you can write your own letter.
Yeah, the Fish and Game Commission.
That option on the bear hunting one.
The Fish and Game Commission, the local Fish and Game Commission did take a vote on this, and it was a supermajority vote, and they composed the letter themselves. So there is a letter there that was included in our correspondence.
And they would like.
And they are asking the Board of Supervisors to put it onto, their letterhead if the board so chooses. If not, they feel pretty powerful enough to send it on and are asking my support as the board rep.
Yeah, I think because it's a Fish and Game Commission 7-1 vote recommending that we do this, even though I haven't read the bill itself, that's strong enough for me to support it.
Yeah, they've done an awful lot of research.
Does the board want the letter to come over the board's, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors?
Let's read the letter.
Well, we don't have the letter. I haven't read the bill. So if you do, we have to vote to have an urgency ordinance, then we can discuss this. So may I have a motion on an urgency ordinance?
It's not ordinance.
Ordinance of letter. Thank you.
Just to add to the agenda discussion about whether to direct the board chair to sign the letter.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Okay. The discussion is whether to write a letter to the governor to oppose AB 711 and to uphold the Calaveras County's Fish and Game Commission. Okay. We do not have a copy of their letter here, and
we do.
We do. Where
it
is
in your correspondence.
Oh.
I apologize.
It's to the governor.
I apologize. I thought you distributed it with their packet.
I don't give you a summary of the law. How about I give you a summary of what it says?
Yeah, I got it right here, too.
Okay. Because basically it's amending existing law. Existing law requires the State Fish and Game Commission, existing law required the Fish and Game Commission by July 1st, 2008 to establish by regulation a process to certify centerfire rifle and pistol ammunition as non-lead ammunition and to do other regulatory activities. This bill would require, as soon as practical, by no later than July 1st, 2019, the use of non-lead ammunition for the taking of all wildlife, and then there's a list of all game and non-game wildlife. It would require the Commission to certify by regulation non-lead ammunition for these purposes. It would require that the list of certified ammunition include any federally approved non-toxic shotgun ammunition and would make these changes. It would provide that these provisions do not apply to government officials or their agents when carrying out a statutory duty required by law. These would be would be promulgated by July 1st, 2015 and phased in by no later than July 1st, 2019.
So what is that? I understand the dates, and it doesn't apply to law enforcement officials or game wardens and so forth. What is it that they're saying? What is...
Essentially, it's taking the lead out of bullets used for hunting purposes.
Right, understand that. But is there any proposal of what is recommended, of what would be used in place of, and the impact of that?
No, there's no other.
Science is steel.
Yeah, there are some steel now, but then you get into what you can kill with and what it does to the animal. Whereas lead is safer to the animal than some of the other things on the market.
It's proven to work pretty well.
Well, it's not safer, but it doesn't make them suffer as much.
It's more effective.
Right.
That's what she has.
Yes.
So, copper and steel will go, in a lot of cases, will go right through an animal. And then lead will stop and do the damage enough to kill the animal quicker. So, to me, it's just another way of taking away. If you take away the ammunition, you take away the weapons.
Well, they're not taking the ammunition away. They're changing.
There's nothing to replace it, though.
Yes. I do. It doesn't. It isn't specific to the type of ammunition. It is based on a study of lead contamination in condors, and it's basically attacking that particular position. And then there's a statement that says, according to the California Association of Firearms Retailers, manufacturers are saying there may be a shortage of non-lead ammunition as the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives determined that such ammunition meets the definition of prohibited armor-piercing ammunition, and manufacturers may no longer be able to produce it. So there's the only other statement about alternatives, acceptable alternatives to lead ammunition remain limited compared to the availability of various calibers and loadings of lead ammunition used for hunting. The alternatives are also more expensive, creating an economic barrier to their use.
Okay, there's already a shortage of ammunition now, and it does not apply to recreational shooting, just to hunting. Is that correct? Supervisor.
I don't, how do you define recreational? To me, hunting is recreational.
Shooting, all that.
Let me see.
Yeah, they'll go on to Nevada and buy it there and bring it in, and I mean, there's just all sorts of scams out there, and it's detrimental to, hunting is a very viable activity here in Calaveras County. And
This applies to the use of non-lead ammunition for the taking of all wildlife, including game mammals, game birds, non-game birds, and non-game mammals with any firearm.
Seems like a good thing to oppose. Not that the governor's going to listen to us, but, we can make a symbolic
making a statement against right
to the governor.
Right.
So weren't you, Debbie, weren't you asking that they asked us to attach our...
As the Fish and Game Commission has learned, they are an extension of the Board of Supervisors.
They can write a letter.
So they're trying to do the right thing by coming back to the board saying, we oppose this bill and ask that you write a letter in opposition of this.
Okay.
Instead of Fish and Game doing it on their own and then not ask the supervisors fine later on. Right. So they're trying to do the right thing.
That's a motion, Supervisor Monti.
Yes, that's a motion.
Second by Supervisor Benson. The motion is that the Board of Supervisors will write a letter to the governor to vote no on AB 711.
Supporting the Fish and Game
Previous
Commission.
motion was to add this item as an urgency item and uphold the recommendation of the Calaveras Fish and Game Commission to oppose the use of lead ammunition.
Well, first we have to authorize, we vote, but it's not.
But that was just
But that's
adding
not.
it on the agenda.
It's two separate, because we have to vote so we can even discuss it.
So a motion by Supervisor Parker and a second by
Supervisor Edson to write a letter to the governor to oppose AB 711. Okay, the motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moves 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have anything?
Just very quickly, a couple things.
I just mean it that way.
Oh,
Excuse me, Ms. Norton. Did you have anything? No, go ahead.
So a couple of things very quickly. Again, glad Mr. Reyes is still here. I wanted to clarify that our CSAC annual membership is $16,000. Memberships to CSAC are based upon population and county size. So we pay $16,000 a year. LA County pays several $100,000 a year. I won't articulate the benefits that I think have already been expressed nicely, but the biggest benefit is it does give us, it levels the playing field and gives us a voice on CSAC that's equal to others. I would also mention that Supervisor Callaway talked about their different policy committee meetings and groups. They do have a policy committee on economic development that one of the board members may be interested in serving on at some point in time. Two other things.
You don't, just sorry to interrupt, but you don't have to be you don't have to be a representative like Marita is, or as an alternate.
No.
You can, any board member can join the.
Correct. That is correct. So if that's of interest to someone.
I don't represent the board, but they just, when I
Yeah.
went to my initial, when you guys went to your, initial training thing, when I stood up and said, my name's Darren, I'm from Calaveras, whatever, I happened to mention that I had a background in real estate. And so for housing, land use, and transportation, the housing land use part, I don't remember who it is, somebody approached me and said, would you be interested in participating in the HLT committee? And I said, absolutely, it'd be great. So I was looking for suckers.
A couple of other things. I sent an email out to you indicating that we had some personnel changes related to our projects, the jail and sheriff's office, and I just really want to acknowledge the partnership and great working relationship between the sheriff and our office on those projects. I think we share a common interest in the success of that project and have been working very closely and very well together on that, and I really appreciate the partnership. Finally, two things. I spent about 4 hours with Craig Pedro, who's the CAO of Tuolumne County. He initiated the meeting. I had been trying to talk to him on multiple occasions, and as you probably all are very aware, he has been totally consumed by the running of the EOC and the rim fire. They're now starting to slow down, although they still do have an active EOC. They've actually asked for Clay on our staff to help facilitate their after-event meeting. He has a lot of experience in that area, and they think he would be a great resource to help them work through some of the challenges and to celebrate some of the great partnerships that evolved during the course of that fire. And I think it's a tribute to Clay and just our good working relationship with our county next door also. Then finally, I want to say that we are starting to look at the reuse of this building. As you're aware, the courts are going to be vacating this building, scheduled for November 20th or 23rd. And so we are starting to look at the reuse of this building. We've identified the departments that are likely to be relocated here, are starting to reach out and talk to a local firm about how we might reuse this space in the least costly way that we can. It is going to trigger some ADA improvements and some asbestos abatement. So we'll be coming to the board at some point in time in the future. There's a committee that has been working on this, and we're now trying to move that process along and get some firm plans for how we'll be reusing this building.
Ms. Elliott.
Just to follow up, the IHSS Advisory Committee resolution will be coming back at the next board meeting. The Fish and Game Commission is going to require an ordinance change, so hopefully at the last Fish and Game Commission meeting of the year, we'll get input on their direction. And I'm probably also going to ask the board, even though they have the ability to adopt their own bylaws, at least have the board review the bylaws that we're proposing for them. Diane and I have briefly discussed the list of the other committees, and the Hardwood Advisory Committee is on the top of the priority list to look at, along with a few others. So over the course of the year, I'll just keep going through each of them and bringing them up to date for you.
Thank you, Jen.
Ms. Eller, do you have anything?
I just wanted to announce the new location of the Board of Supervisors office as part of the administrative office. So if you wanted to look at the public copies of the agendas for the board or be in contact with me at all, I am now in the admin office, not at the supervisor's office.
Okay.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.
Can I? One more question, please.